Okay, I'm speaking with Jackie Barnes from Extinction Rebellion. Apparently, I'm really sorry, Jackie, but we had a little bit of a mic malfunction right at the beginning. So basically, I acknowledged right at the beginning that we'd spoken to Jackie about a month ago, and I asked her what's happened since, and she's just told me about the increasing acidification of the ocean. Right then, do you think that the general public have got any idea just how bad things are?
Not a hope. No, they don't. They have absolutely no idea. You do have to keep an eye on and follow news and keep up regularly with information. That's half the problem, that information is not getting through. The media is not giving this information out. The government is not giving this information out because it is pretty nasty. And they like to have a little bit of hope, and it's pretty depressing.
Do you feel like you're beating your head against a wall, and why bother?
Not quite beating head against a brick wall. You know, we have just had, the 13th council in New Zealand, Whangarei, has just declared a climate emergency. And they have specifically said that they are, walking the talk. So they do plan on doing something about it.
Does this mean, sorry to interrupt, Jackie, does this mean now that these councils have declared a climate emergency that this will form policy, this will affect policy decisions in the future so that they take the climate emergency into account?
Yes, as far as they can. The problem is that the Resource Management Act specifically excludes taking climate change actually into account, which is ridiculous.
But that is about to be repealed because we've got to
being reviewed.
Well, we've got to sort out the problems with the building and the expense of consents and what have you. So I would have thought it would have been an ideal time in Parliament to thoroughly review, in fact, repeal the RMA.
Yeah, but it is going to be reviewed, and I know a lot of councils are actually pushing for that.
Why are we so scared of the resource management? Why don't our politicians just get stuck into it? It's not a sacred cow.
No, it's not a sacred cow. I quite agree. But, the economy comes first. Short-term money in pockets come before long-term security of the human race. And it's just like, there is going to be no economy if we go over a certain point, tipping point. There is going to be no economy because we cannot then stop it. So it is very frustrating, but that is the idea of pushing central government. So Extinction Rebellion, as on a global scale, are actually heading towards a week of action in October, and the idea is that we will be pushing governments to do something, not just the councils this time. New Zealand's done pretty well with the councils declaring a climate and ecological emergency, and we are one of the top countries, in actual fact, that we cover a large portion of the population. I think we're up to about 70% or something of our population is now covered by councils that have declared a climate emergency, and that is one of the highest, in global terms, which is great. But the next thing is we need central government to actually act on that as well.
It seems to me that it would be a good idea for ER to stand candidates for regional councils, at least throughout the country.
No, that is not what Extinction Rebellion is here for. Extinction Rebellion is specifically here for its three demands, and that is to get governments and media to tell the truth and get that truth out to the public. The second thing is to demand that our emissions get down to net zero by 2025. And the third is the Citizens' Assembly. And that is that policy is made by a type of jury system, not the MPs who are, up. They can be lobbied by industry groups. If you have a citizens' assembly, they are not liable for lobbying, and they can just look at the science and take experts' opinion and go from there.
This is revolutionary talk here, Jacqui. So you're saying
Well,
do away
really,
with Parliament and have a
no,
citizens'
no.
assembly.
Not quite. No, there will still be a parliament, there'll still be a government, but a lot of difficult policy decisions are taken out of the political arena. Climate change should not be a political football. It should be a cross-party getting together and dealing with it. But it's not. It's become a political football. We need to get away from that, and the Citizens' Assembly does. Now, a Citizens' Assembly has been used, I think in Iceland, but also in Ireland. They used it to deal with a couple of really difficult issues that basically the government really didn't want to touch. So they handed it over to a Citizens' Assembly, and that was the abortion issue and also gay marriages. Because in a Catholic country, obviously, that was very hot potatoes. So they passed it to a Citizens' Assembly to deal with and take decision on.
Isn't that a bit like having a referendum?
Not really, no, because that Citizens' Assembly is taken out like a jury system, and they listen to all the evidence and listen to, as much expert advice as put before them. And then they make a decision based on that. It is not like a referendum where you have lobbying of the public to try and vote one way or the other without having all the facts. The Citizens' Assembly is they sit down and they listen to the facts. And then make a decision on that, like a jury system.
Now, Extinction Rebellion, XR rather, are known for taking what are known as actions. What's happened recently since we spoke a month ago?
Oh, well, yes, we have moved on. We just last night had a coal rebellion launch party. So we have launched a rebellion against coal. That is one of the worst emitters for carbon dioxide emissions. Coal is really nasty. So we've launched against that, and we are having an action on the 9th of August. Those details are still being worked out. But also we've got a global week of action coming up in October, and that has come from a XR globally, and so we're going to be working out the details for that. And of course, the School Strike for Climate has got on the 27th of September has got another strike day, which they're inviting all the public to attend. And again, those details are still being worked out. So we've got a few things coming up in August, September and October, which is very exciting.
Well, obviously you're an activist group. In terms of numbers, how many people do you have in Christchurch at the moment?
I think there is at least 300 on our mailing list, our database. We keep almost every week that we meet. We meet probably about 3 or 4 times a month. There are always new people, and whether they get involved or not is, entirely up to them. Often they do, but at least they are available for actions. So we often, whenever we have actions, A lot of people turn up that we don't sort of see regularly at meetings, but they are there for action, which is really nice. Mm.
So a lot of your people were there on the march for the water, weren't they?
Yes, yes, we did
March.
turn up in support of that. Absolutely.
So if people are interested, and that's the other thing I wanted to ask you, what about across Canterbury? Because I imagine you've got quite a lot of support throughout the province.
Yes, I actually gave the Extinction Rebellion talk up in Amberley, probably a couple of months ago now, and they pretty much immediately set up an XR Huranui group, which is great, and they're doing pretty well. They've already got their Facebook page set up. They're, doing quite a bit of work trying to push forward and giving the talk. They're only new.
How do you go down with the your farmers and your horticulturists, the vineyard people, the wine growers? Do they think you're a bunch of lunatics, or are they actually starting to come round?
A lot of people, I think, in New Zealand are not complete climate change denialists. I think most people do realise there's something going on. They just don't realise how bad it is. Some people obviously are apathetic. Some people have got their head in the sand. They don't want to know. They want to carry on with their lifestyle and their short-term economics. But there are, I think, a growing number of people who do realise that actually this is pretty serious, and if we don't do something, the consequences are particularly dire for everyone, not just on the other side of the world, which is where it's obviously being hit most, but it will eventually hit New Zealand. We may be one of the last, but everyone will suffer at some point.
So if anybody's listening, watching, wants to find out more about XR, or in fact join your ranks, how would they go about it?
We do have a Facebook page, and you can sign up there, but the best thing to do would be to actually come along to our Extinction Rebellion talk, which is given on the first Friday of each month. And there you can find out about the science and the latest, and then also find out about Extinction Rebellion itself and its principles, its demands, how we set up, a little bit of history, and why non-violent direct action actually does work. So that is the best way. And then you come along to the second or the fourth Friday of each month, where we have what's known as our heartbeat meetings, and start getting things organised.
Right, well, Jacqui Barnes, thank you very much for talking to us again this evening here on After Dark, and telling us all about the activities and the scope of what Extinction Rebellion hope to achieve. So good night to you, and thanks for staying up late.